Welcome to Alouettes Flightdeck, podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football, presented by SportBuff. I'm your host, Tim Capper. Along with my co-host, Cliffy D. Hey, Cliff, how are you, my friend?
Hey now. Once again.
Yeah, so the game.
Not fun. Not fun to lose like that. I mean, it's not fun to lose anyways, but to have seen what we saw, and it feels like we've been down this road before.
Yeah.
Like, say, week 2, or I guess week 3 technically, in Calgary.
Well,
I feel like I was watching the exact same match, to tell you the truth.
We also seem to be going through a season of streaks. 2019, it was win one, lose one throughout most. I think it was the entire season, almost.
It sure felt like it.
And this year, what has it been? Win 1, loss 2. I mean, it could go, could go one way or the other. I mean, it could be like Ottawa and breaking their 11-game losing streak at home or something like that, or whatever it was.
That's right. That goes all the way back to 2019.
Yep.
Maybe that's it. Maybe the Alouettes need to start playing on Tuesday nights. Maybe that's the ticket.
Oh dear God, no. No. It's funny you say that. Now you're going to make me look it up. Damn it! When's the last Tuesday home game for the Alouettes? But it's funny. We talk about. We're talking about last week about Jekyll and Hyde, Vernon Adams. I think both showed up. It wasn't necessarily one or the other this past week in the loss to Toronto. Again, I think it's just frustrating that we get over 500 yards of offense. William Stamack gets one of the Players of the Week awards. Again, another monster game, and defensive penalties and another fourth quarter interception. Seemed to actually want that one in the first half too, right before halftime. Don't even get me on that one.
Yeah, like I said, it's just like it was. Like the Alouettes started the game, despite they were down. Okay, the Toronto scored on the first series, but then Montreal took a lead, looked like they were in control. Vernon Adams throws a pick, and everything just falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're stuck playing catch up for the rest of the game. Still miscues and defense looking questionable. I mean, like I said, this is almost a carbon copy, like copy and paste from what we saw against the Calgary Stampeders. We were expecting to play one quarterback and ended up playing another one. A lot of the starters were replaced, and it almost feels like it was the exact same match.
Yeah, no, I agree. At least, McLeod Bethel-Thompson isn't a rookie. But still,
right. I mean, he's definitely a capable CFL quarterback. So I mean, but still, like we were all set for facing off against Nick Arbuckle and then get thrown in the mix. And the fact that McLeod Bethel-Thompson had never beaten the Alouettes before had to give Alouettes fans some hope, something positive. And then when a late scratch of Eric Rogers,
yeah, I
thought, oh my gosh, like that's. Like that's one of the few weapons that they had available, and then he's out. I don't want to say I got overconfident, thinking, okay, this is going to be a cakewalk for the Alouettes. It sure as hell wasn't.
No, it was not. By the way, last Tuesday home game for the Alouettes was July 29th, 2003 versus Winnipeg.
Wow, it feels like forever.
It basically is. I can't. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. I just looking at the stats here itself. I mean, it's again, Vernon did well, but there's still, again, some tendencies were there. And if anybody happened to listen to the TSN 690 post game show where they actually tuned in to the Owls post game press conference. It's pretty telling. Not everybody is good with the media. We've seen bad interviews, we've seen good interviews, and we see middle of the line interviews. Just Vernon was just so dejected. And, he takes everything on his shoulders, which is a good sign of a leader. Dealing with that, a half with injured ribs. So I don't know, Cliff. I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of positives for this game, but again, unfortunately for this one, the negatives outweigh them.
Big time. And it's not all on Vernon Adams' shoulders. I mean, he can take all the blame if he wants, but it's not all on him. Granted, he made mistakes, but he also worked his ass off to get back into things. He did as he normally does. He put the team on his back and nearly willed them to victory. Problem was, the mistakes he made were not good. I mean, there's, as we said, the whole Jekyll and Hyde thing, big play VA versus Vernon. And it's frustrating. I understand why Alouettes fans would be frustrated watching this. And now doubt's been cast on the team and doubt's been cast on him as far as can he handle the pressure and all that. I think he's proven himself over the years that he can handle the pressure. He knows what it takes. It's just really bad reads. The throws that he made, it almost felt like he was purposely throwing at the Argo defenders. And I think that's the frustrating part is, okay, fine, we're sitting on the couch. What the hell do we know? But there's a little part of me that's just kind of looking there like, look, what I'm not even going to begin to compare football knowledge to Vernon Adams, but what the hell? What kind of throw is that?
I mean, yes, it's easy to again, it's easy. Everybody are Monday morning quarterbacks. I get that.
Oh, 100%. But that's the thing. That's why I'm never going to say anything like that. But at the same time, it's still like and I'm sure once he saw the film, even he's got to be like, what the hell was I thinking on that
one?
In
the fourth? Oh, for sure. That ball easily could have been thrown out of bounds. I understand he was trying to make a play. That I understand.
I would have even taken an intentional grounding at that point. He
was outside of the box, so it shouldn't have been an intentional grounding.
Right.
So, but still, dude. I mean, 2 weeks in. I mean, the Alouettes have almost 1,000 yards of total offense in 2 games, and have 2 losses. I mean, they dominated in almost every, if not every, single offensive category. Actually, every category. I mean, what team holds the ball for 36 minutes and loses?
The one who doesn't win the turnover battle.
Yes.
That's the thing. McLeod Bethel Thompson didn't make any mistakes. I think that you have to look at that as being one of the key factors as to why the Argos were able to come away with the W, is because of the fact that McLeod Bethel Thompson and his group of no-name receivers, they got the job done. They didn't make any mistakes. They were also, too, less penalties.
Oh, for sure. By the way, did both of Vernon's interceptions lead to points?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Field goal and a touchdown.
Yep.
That's 10 points right there. The Alouettes lost by 3.
10 point. The touchdown was in the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
That killed me.
But again, as I said, you cannot put this completely on Vernon.
No, you can't. I mean, the penalties were just this team when it comes to penalties is also Jekyll and Hyde.
Well, discipline's always going to be a factor. To me, what I thought was the most glaring issue with why the Alouettes lost, the secondary.
Oh,
they were
sure.
burnt.
Yeah.
They were completely burnt. All of them.
Yeah.
Were just owned by, like I said, a group of no-name receivers. And just, there's penalties involved as well, but just beaten on coverage. Like, for example, the one of the touchdowns that Toronto scored, and I'm not sure if that was off the interception or not, but Ricky Collins, like I said, he was doing his best impression of Pinball Clemens by bouncing off Money Hunter, Darius Pickett, Greg Reed. Like, none of these guys could tackle worth a damn.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that the touchdown where Money tried to just to shoulder tackle him instead of actually wrapping his arms around the damn player?
Well, for example, I mean, and then, like I said, the other guys, Collins was just bouncing off these guys, like literally like a pinball. like just sloppy, extremely sloppy. Taekwon Glass on other series too. Like he was just getting the break speed off of him.
Yeah, Glass, Pickett got burned if I'm not mistaken.
Like I said, pretty much anybody in that secondary, they're all to blame as far as I'm concerned. As far like they've all got their part in as to why the Alouettes lost that game. Like it was just extremely bad coverage.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's frustrating too because we know Greg Reed's an all-star. Money Hunter is also one of the better players in this league. Darius Pickett, okay, he's a CFL rookie. He's going to make mistakes. That happens, so you have to allow for that. Taekwon Glass, I mean, he's a veteran too. I mean, he doesn't have quite the experience that guys like Hunter and Reed do, but I mean, he's still a very effective player, or at least he was when he was at Edmonton, and that's exactly what we expected when he came back to Montreal. And you know, I like the guy. I think when he's on, he's a heck of a player. But I mean, like I said, all four of those guys, they got dummied, and it sucked because I mean the Argos had a field day with them, quite frankly.
Yeah, you look at the stats alone. Vernon improved substantially, and he was impressive. Not a lot of the stuff. You know, I still wouldn't call that last touchdown that the Owls got in garbage time because it wasn't, because the Owls were still in the thick of things. Mm-hmm. I mean, Vernon only missed 9 passes all game. I mean, he was 30 of 39 for 382 yards, but 2 picks and 2 interceptions. And McLeod Bethel-Thompson was only 13 of 19 for 210 yards. Oh. He also had 2 TDs, but, you know, again, he didn't have any interceptions. And to me, it was another wasted game for William Stamack. 19 carries, 133 yards, a 7.0 average, dude. And a touchdown. His longest was 23 yards.
And leading the league in rushing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's the really frustrating part is he's having himself a heck of a year despite all of this. And what do we have to show for it? Just losses.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned...
Jake,
I was going to say...
Go ahead.
All right. As far as I'm concerned, like this is a 4-2 team, but they're playing like a 2-4 team. I mean, you are when they say you are what your record says you are.
Yeah.
This is the proof.
Yeah.
Undisputably, like this is a team that should have won that game in Calgary. They definitely should have won this game in Toronto. I mean, this team should be 4-2, and on top of the Eastern Division. Instead, now you got the Red Blacks breathing down the Alouettes' neck.
Yeah, they're half a game out.
Yeah.
Also, we can't forget, by the way, BJ Cunningham stumbled too.
Yeah, that didn't help the cause either. And again, you can't pin that on Vernon. I mean, it's again just mistakes. It happens. I mean, we know what kind of player BJ is,
but just like last week, or the week prior, and they were driving.
Yeah.
You know,
doesn't make it any less frustrating. You're absolutely right.
No, 2 receivers. The Owls had 2 receivers over 100 yards. Eugene Lewis, 8 receptions on 12 targets for 112 and a touchdown. Jake Wieneke, great game for this dude. I'm glad he's finally able to get something going. 6 receptions on 9 targets for 117 yards and also a touchdown. BJ had 48 yards. Quan Bray had a very good game back for 66. I thought it was funny. They kept on talking during the game. I think wasn't it during the game that they were talking? They don't know why he was back. Good to see him back again, coming off the injury list. I'm thinking, dude, do you not know he was a healthy scratch? I mean, come on, Rod, get it together. Come on.
Oh boy.
I mean, again, it's frustrating. Owls have over 500. He had 551 total yards of offense. 551 of total yards.
Yep.
And they lose.
It's absolutely, it's maddening. And even when the team itself on their Twitter account is talking about, look at all these great numbers the Alouettes are putting up. Like, yeah, that is great, but there's no style points in the CFL. I mean, if you don't turn all these stats and, benchmarks and everything, that's all well and good, but you need the W's, man. Like, and again, losing by 3 points is not a moral victory. There is no moral victories in the Canadian Football League.
No.
You win or you lose. That's it. And the Alouettes are losing, and that's not good.
Yeah. Yeah, so VA's interception came with I think it was under a minute in the. Again, they were driving in the second. Fumbled by BJ as they were driving in the third. And then the INT with under 5 minutes with them driving again in the fourth.
So it's like just backbreaking stuff. And again,
it makes
you expect this team.
You know, it makes me want. So it's twice this week. Yay! What's up? Go, Cliff.
What's frustrating though is this just speaks to the fact that the talent is there. This team knows how to win. They got the pieces in place to be able to win, and they've talked about it numerous times. Players have during interviews is we have to be able to execute. Like they know what they have to do. They know they have to execute. It's just now a matter of when are you going to execute, because you're not executing right now, and it's very frustrating. I wish there was something that, you know, like I think back to like 2019, like even the times when the Alouettes got down, they figured things out. Like they made adjustments in the second half.
Yes. And
I don't feel like the Alouettes have done that lately. I don't feel like they've adjusted. They played catch up, and
I thought that, you know, I thought the last two games that they were sidelined by a turnover on their first drive. Didn't they have a turnover on their first drive 2 weeks ago too?
Mm-hmm.
Of the second half?
Yep.
I mean, you know what's funny? You look at what they've done, you know, at the end versus Calgary, at the end here versus Toronto. They, you know what? It makes me wonder if this team should go more no huddle.
Play more tempo?
I noticed because when they got they started at their own 5 for that last drive of the fourth, their last touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And they scored a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean the fact that
maybe they should.
The fact that Vernon threw a dime to Winnecki just to move the chains was an absolute thing of beauty. Yeah. That helped, and I think the Argos were just so shell shocked. That's how Winnecki was able to score that touchdown so quickly. But yeah, I mean, problem is it feels like they're doing stuff like this with, you know, like it's a little too late to do that. Like, and don't give me this nonsense about, you know, CFL, it's not over till it's over. Like, you know, I get it. Okay. I understand. But at the same time, where's that sense of urgency throughout the game while you're sitting there chasing your own tail? Why aren't you trying to engineer drives like that?
Yeah.
Earlier to give yourself more of a chance. That's the part I have a really hard time wrapping my head around is, like when it comes to play calling like that, like just that sense of urgency. Like you said, maybe go no huddle more often, maybe go tempo and try to catch them napping, because what you were doing before wasn't working. So switch it up and, you know, try to keep the opposition guessing.
Right. I think somebody called it on social media. Maybe it was you or somebody, right? You know, for the drive at the end of the game, once they got the ball back and trying to go down. Didn't somebody say, why don't you, the Owls should have called 2 straight plays? They had 2 in the can already, so you don't have to worry about huddling. You can just go.
Well, I think every team that runs if you're running a 2-minute drill, you should have that.
You should. And I don't think that was the case.
Like there should be like just automatic that everyone knows, and you just have that one word. Like a lot of NFL teams will do that. They'll have, when they run their 2-minute drill, is right away. You know exactly what the play is going to be. Just quarterback calls out the name of the play. They know right away, and they just go ahead and execute it. Like, yeah. Alouettes should definitely be doing something like that if you're going to try to run that kind of an offense. Like, well, ideally if you're not trying to play catch up, but yeah, I mean, that's, to me, yeah, I think any football team, worth their salt should be able to execute something like that in their 2-minute drill.
Yeah. Yeah, that last drive for the touchdown, 6 plays, 105 yards, and the clock started at 1:51.
Yeah. And even more impressive was after the onside kick to get the ball back didn't work. I mean, you still got a 2-and-out from
exactly.
Like the defense. So this is what I mean when the defense is doing their job for the most part. They got that and just to get the ball back and to even just try to get the field goal. Unfortunately, clock management just ended up doing the team in, but they had very little to work with as well. So it's...
And what we've been talking about with the defense and stuff like that, there were some ramifications because of it, but we'll talk about that after our interview, which it's funny, we're so many minutes in, I haven't even mentioned that we have Davis Sanchez on the phone on the show with us tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll talk about that in the game afterwards. But yeah, I mean, things have to be done. Things have to be done. We're 2-4. We don't want to become 2-5, but we got Hamilton coming up next week. This week.
Yep, this Saturday. And again, Hamilton has not lost at all at Tim Hortons Field this season,
and the Owls haven't won at Tim Hortons Field.
That's true too.
But mind you, it's only been twice.
Well, that's it. So.
But still.
The thing is, though, the Tiger Cats are, they're getting healthy again. A lot of the players that they had out are starting to come back. They're starting to participate in practice again. So, still too soon to say who we're going to be facing as far as quarterback goes. If the Tiger Cats are going to have Jeremiah Masoli back in the lineup, or if David Watford's going to be the quarterback going into this game.
I was under the impression it was going to be Watford. But I that's my impression. But then look what happened. Look who started. Everybody didn't know for the game yesterday. The game, nobody knew that was going to happen for Ottawa.
No, not at all. And I don't think too that Orlando Steinheimer is going to pull a Rick Campbell and say that, okay, this guy the Watford's going to be the starter, but then at the very last minute it's going to be Jeremiah Masoli. I don't see him pulling a stunt like that, but. This is the CFL where anything can happen and points don't matter.
Exactly. Yeah. So before we get to the interview, just to remind everybody that we are on social media. Obviously, you can catch us over at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Facebook, most of them are listed. Just look up Alouettes Flightdeck. Obviously, Twitter for us is at Alouettes FLDeck. Cliff is at Cliffy D. I'm at Repact. It's REPPACT. Any of the archives you want to listen to, you can head over to alouettesflightdeck.ca. YouTube account. Hey, by the way, speaking of, you guys are doing an amazing job. If you haven't already, head over to our YouTube account to search Alouettes Flight Deck. We're getting closer and closer to getting 100 people, where we will be able to have our specific and custom URL.
And again, folks, if you help get us to 100 subscribers, we've got a very amazing giveaway planned for that. So give us a like, give us subscribe to the Flight Deck on YouTube, show us the love, and what is going to come back to you.
Exactly. Also, we are on many other social on podcast aggregates. You know where we are. Apple, Google, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, and many others that I'm sure we don't know about, where our RSS feed is hanging out.
That's it. Like I said, folks, if you listen to podcasts, if you're not on any of the big aggregates, then pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts, just type in the search words Alouettes Flight Deck. Pretty sure odds are you're going to find us. I mean, the fact that we're on the big ones definitely helps. And we definitely appreciate if you want to like or subscribe there as well. We definitely appreciate the support there. But pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts, chances are you're going to find the Alouettes Flight Deck.
We were lucky enough to be able to get former Alouette and current CFL and TSN panel member Davis Sanchez with us. So we are going to speak with Davis, and when we get back, we got a few more things to talk about. So stay tuned. And with us on the line now, we've had him on before. It's been a while. We're glad to have him back. It's a gentleman, as not only a former Alouette, but hey, if you watch any of the TSN, CFL and TSN broadcasting, He's part of it. Yes, it's him. It's actually him. It's Davis Sanchez. Hey, man. How are you, Ches?
Good to be back on the flight deck. What's up, fellas?
Hey, doing good.
All
Not
right.
much, man. Not much.
Been a minute, but we definitely had to have you back on for a chat. Find out what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
I made it for a return. Usually, I don't get callbacks from dates or from podcasts, so it's good to be back on, fellas.
You all got a spot here anytime you
exactly.
need it, man.
You got everything going for you, Ches. Former Alouette, currently on the TSN panel. Hey, maybe we can get some
Three-time Grey Cup champion.
Yeah. Get some inside deets. You can spill the tea. Whatever the kids say these days.
Yeah, I don't know any of what the kids say, but I'll trust you guys on that.
Obviously, it was a weird off season, and we saw you. Not only it was doing everything virtually. We saw you during the draft. We saw you a couple times this season already too. Now, explain to anybody who may not know, including myself and Cliff, because we're curious to know about this. How hard is it to be a part of a broadcast team or a panel and having to deal with doing this stuff virtually?
Well, one of the best things about a panel, guys, is the fact that it's at least the good panels, and what you want to try to do the most of is just sitting around and making a conversation like you're sitting with your buddy at a bar on the couch and just talking. And so you try to bring that out as much as possible in the panels. And I think the best panels are the ones that can make it most conversational. When you're at home and you're staring into a lens, you can't do that. And there's one thing that folks might not know, and I'm sure you guys have picked it up watching, but there's almost a 2-second delay. So you'll hear, one of us talk, and then you'll feel that pause. It almost seems like we're thinking about what we're going to say, but it's really just a delay on the other end. And then when you're talking, you're just staring into a lens of a camera. We've all done, videos or sent messages to our buddy on the phone. I mean, at least with that, you're looking at yourself on the camera. With what we have, the setup we have, it's called DeGero. We're actually just staring into a lens, so it's kind of it's difficult. You got to get used to it. I think we're getting better at it and getting used to it, and hopefully, I don't want to get too used to it because I'd like to be back in, and we're all kind of back in for the most part. We're back in now full time, but yeah, it's good to be back. How about that? It's good to be back with the boys and Kate on the panel and doing what we love to do and hopefully having fun with, all parties involved, including obviously all the people watching.
Yeah, for sure. And you actually you brought a little bit about my next question. Tell us about having Kate as your leader this year. I mean, it's a little bit of change for anybody who's been watching, the CFL on TSN for all these years, with Rod switching back, I guess, to doing more play-by-play. But anybody who knows Kate and watched her on SportsCenter all these years knows that she knows her stuff. What's it like having her at the head of the table, so to speak, for you guys?
Yes, she's really smooth, and she's what I appreciate most about her, and I already knew it because I had worked with her before on CFL, and I worked with her at Grey Cup, and we worked at NFL Sundays last year. Mm-hmm. Kara was on that leave, and so Kate did a lot of it with me. And one of the things that's so good about Kate is she's really good on the fly. She's, you can throw a curveball at her last minute. You can change the topic mid-sentence and throw her off script, and she's sharp and she's quick and she's easy to roll with it, which, like I was just saying, when you're doing panels, that's kind of the best type of TV. So she's prepared, she's smart, she's fun. She doesn't take herself too seriously, which also makes her great. She's talented, and so it's been a seamless transition with having her, and we miss Roddy because that's our boy, but that's, calling games is something Rod's wanted to do for a long time, and that was Rod's choice to go and do that because it's something he loves and he's always wanted to do. So, good on him for getting an opportunity. He deserves it. He's awesome. And I think Kate's done a great job, keeping it going.
Yeah, sure. Cliff.
Any chance of you getting into the broadcast booth at any point this season?
No plan this year. I haven't even brought it up. I think eventually that might be something that we talk about. But I've never even I've never brought it up. Never had any thoughts about it. I got so much going on right now, Cliff. It's just with the Edge, with launching the Edge is a big project for us, and then I'm full-time NFL, and obviously my main gig is being on the CFL panel. So it's just I got a lot going on, and trying to pick up something new at this point is just I don't have much interest in it. I just kind of rolling with all the stuff that I got and trying to get through it right now, and having a blast with it.
Now, talk to us about TSN Edge. For those that don't know, it focuses a little bit more on the the gambling, the fantasy aspect of things. Take us a little bit more into what led to your involvement in it.
Just that I'm a savage, degenerate gambler. That's what led me into it. I love gambling. Yeah,
that'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been it's a passion of mine, and I knew that this is where the industry was headed. And so when I hopped on with TSN in 2018. I brought it to them right away and was talking to, the powers that be and some of my bosses and some of the guys that I'm working with right now with TSN Edge. And Brett Bailey is kind of the guy who spearheaded it, and Dom Padula, along with Ken Bolden. And so having these conversations with these guys early on, and we talked about it, and and I just explained the passion of gambling and sports betting and kind of finding that intersector between sports broadcast and sports betting, and we knew that there's a market for it, and everybody's been on board. We've been talking about it for a couple of years, and it's just the legislation. We were kind of taking it slow, and we're still taking it slow. We're only a few man crew at TSN. There's only a few of us that are kind of full time on it, and we have big plans for what we're going to do moving forward. But we're just kind of taking it slow until the legislation is completely done, and then we'll do a full launch, and you already see a lot of it on SportsCenter and everywhere else across TSN. But in the next year, you're going to see a whole lot more, and it's hopefully everybody's enjoying it. And it's really just the same thing that we're always doing, watching games. But instead of giving analysis of just the game, we're giving the analysis of the game with the gambling and the fantasy aspect too.
Mm-hmm. What do you find that?
Go ahead. Oh. So I was going to say, just because obviously right now, a lot of the sites, that the CFL has partnered with, and with TSN, talking about all the, sports interaction and the other ones, and Regal Bet, or Bet Regal rather, most of them right now are just with free, quote unquote, free money. Most of them you can't make a real bet. Who do you think, in your opinion, will be, once the legislation is fully passed, do you think there's going to be one main leader when it comes to making bets through a sports book?
Yeah, whoever TSN announces the partnership with, that will be the leader.
Okay.
That was my company man answer. No, I think there's going to be a lot of companies that will have their foot in the action and have skin in the game, and that's across the country. As soon as it goes, we've already passed a lot of steps to get to legislation's obviously gone through, but the licenses haven't been handed out yet. But I think there's going to be a lot of different players in it. But we'll obviously be working with our partners here at the network and the league and moving forward. But I think it's going to be like cannabis and like liquor and like everything else. It's going to be very competitive, and there's going to be some major players, and then there's going to be some smaller boutique shops. And I think, competition is good for all of us who enjoy fantasy and sports betting, because that just gives us better prices on the lines and on all the contests, because it's just for competition purposes.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. All right, Davis, let's talk about our Montreal Alouettes. What the F is going on? they're 2-4.
That's pretty broad. Yep.
2-4. Let's be honest. There's a couple of games that really, realistically, they should have been W's, and it would have just taken one or two things going the Alouettes' way, or just things that they could have done a little bit better, and it'd be a completely different story. In your opinion, from what you've seen so far, based on the 6 games they played, What's going on?
Well, like it's well, I think the inconsistency with Vernon. That's probably our conversation has been beat to death. I've seen I'm a big fan of Vernon, and I'm a big fan of his talent, and I think that if I look across the landscape of the league and the quarterback position, I think he's one of the guys that is the most exciting, and I think his ceiling is as high as anybody. So the expectations are high for him. I believe he was my pick for most valuable play this year preseason. I thought he had a chance to do that. I think he just got to be more consistent. He's got to believe in himself, and it all starts with VA and the team, and like most teams, it all starts with the quarterback. But that's the one thing that jumps out is you'd like Burns to be just a little more consistent.
Yeah, for sure. Because last week Cliff and I were talking. Both of us came up with different analogies on how to describe how Vernon has been since he's been with the Alouettes. I mean, I've called him a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde quarterback, and he's an Alouettes quarterback that has only won 2 games in a row twice in his career. It's consistency that we're looking for. We still love VA. We still have all faith in VA.
Right.
But we're just wondering, Cliff gave a great analogy too. You weren't were you comparing him, or were you saying he's similar to Hank, Cliff? I can't remember what it was.
I said I see a lot of similarities in how Vernon approaches things to Henry Burris. Like the career paths seem to be almost like parallel. Like you've got good Hank and bad Hank, and I see it seems like there's good Vernon and bad Vernon.
Well, for Vernon's sake, you hope that's the case, because there's a whole lot more good Hank than bad Hank, wasn't there?
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, and that's what we're hoping for, obviously, from Vernon.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's tough. I mean, Vernon, and then also I think Vernon. What we forget about Vernon, he's been around for a while now, right? Now it's and he was almost at one point, 2 years ago when Johnny Manziel came in and he was the odd man out in Hamilton. I thought that was the end of his career. So it's been pretty good bounce back, and we've seen some really good stuff in VA, and I'm sure that he wants to continue that, and he's got the right people around him. He's got Kahari, and I think that's for him. It's and even Danny for that matter. I mean, he's got people around him that are solid people, and especially a guy who's played the position, Kahari. I think that's if Vernon sticks with the process, I think he's got a chance to do some good things.
Yeah. Okay. It starts with Kahari. It starts with Vernon. I mean, you're absolutely right there. When you take a look at the rest of this team, as far as you're concerned, where do you see the strong points and the weak points? Like when you're talking about the overall personnel.
Strength. Well, obviously, strength is William Stamack in the run game. It's you have a guy that's he might be the most talented all around guy in the game right now. It's you can run your offense with him, and I think that's a pretty good thing. And I think when I look at weaknesses, I don't know. I think it's been like this for a while now. It's the pass rush is something that I'm not sure I'm worried about. Linebacker core, I'm not sure that I'm it's one of the best. The front seven is not a front seven. I think it's gotten better for sure. And I think you guys would agree, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's why I'm a little surprised with the move that was made to get rid of Todd Howard as far as defensive line coach goes. Just because I think the pass rush could be better, could definitely be a lot worse though. I think overall, the addition of Almondo Sewell has been a blessing. Him working alongside with Woody Barron they've just been fantastic. Right now though, my big concern though has to be the secondary. I feel that they're not playing up to their potential, and they're just getting the break speed off of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have Barron, so you would expect that to be a good group, right?
That's just it.
They're definitely getting coached right. So, is it the talent? I don't know. I've seen that across the league. I've seen a lot of the backfields struggling, a lot of miscommunication, a lot of busts, and Ottawa consistent. Edmonton keeps doing it as well. There's a lot of teams that are struggling in the back end.
I don't know, Chezzy. I think you got to get DBU back up and running. Get these guys right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, it all works in conjunction. The pass rush and the secondary, they work together, and it's I don't know how long. I don't know if Mark Anthony DeQuoy is out for a while. Is that what's the deal with him?
He's. I don't think he's been sick. I think he's on the 6-game list. So that's That's big. I mean, like again, Ty Cranston does a very admirable job, but I mean, it's the depth more than anything else that kind of concerns me. What I understand though is Dominique Termanson, who is on the practice roster, and then all of a sudden is on a suspended list now. So, like that's a good veteran hand to have in that backfield. But I mean, what do I know?
I don't know anything about that. I wonder why he's on the suspended list. I did not see that. I don't know what that would even mean. But yeah, I think I like Dominic. I've always liked him. I think he's a good player. I think he's the guy that probably didn't get as many shots as he probably could have gotten, and could fill in admirably. Yeah, look, the back end there's talent. Like Greg Reed is talented. Money Hunter is aggressive. I like his aggressive. I don't know if Money Hunter is the technician. I think he's more of a football player. I don't like Pickett out on the field side corner. I think again those guys both. I think Pickett's a really good football player, and I think Pickett would be a guy that would be my Sam. You happen to have a really good Sam in Patrick Levels, right? So you have a good nickel in Levels, but I think that would be where Pickett would play. I think they just want to get him on the field because just the same way I think he's a good football player. I don't know if he's suited to be a field corner. And then for whatever reason, Taquan Glass just struggled. Taquan Glass has really struggled.
Mm-hmm.
So I think look across the back line. I think this guy's playing out of position, in my opinion. I think that the safety spot has been a little bit of an issue. And, I think Greg Reed is the best player back there. And after that, I think there's questions across the board with guys who I think are pretty good football players. I'm not sure if they're exactly in positions they all should be in, but if you look at them, they're all kind of, at least from Hunter Pickett and Levels, they're all similar, right? So.
Absolutely. Going into this game against Hamilton on Saturday, is it safe to say it's a must-win for the Alouettes if they want to compete, seeing as what Ottawa just did against the Elks?
No, there's very few must-wins in the CFL just because of the way the playoffs work. It's an important game, but I don't think it's must-win. You're sitting there in the spot where you're still in the reach of not only just the playoffs, Cliffy, but you're in position to still potentially win the East. So it's not a must-win, but it's if you want to gain some confidence and find your groove, are we at the halfway point, or we're darn close? I mean, it's that's flown by pretty quickly. This shortened season, the fact it started late, we got to the halfway point pretty quick, but we're getting there pretty quick.
Yes, we did. We pretty much are at the halfway point now for pretty much all the teams in the league, including Montreal. I'd say that's why I'm not necessarily concerned, but I mean, I wonder if Alouettes Nation should be concerned at this point. So
I would say this. I feel like looking at this roster, looking at this organization, who's in charge, looking at the head coach, looking at the staff, and then the pieces they have. I think the Owls are still. I think Owls are still in in range. I think there's a good shot. Just in my opinion, the Owls have as good of a shot of coming out the East as anybody right now. Like why not? If you look around at the other teams in the East and their rosters and what the Owls have, like I like the receiving core is as good as anybody in the East right now. I like these guys. Now, do they need to be consistent and does VA need to be better? Sure, but I like them. They're talented. I like when Vernon's at his best, then he's as good as most of them out there. And then this old line just has to. When you have William Stamack back there, I think your help show line. I think they got a shot. I'm not all that concerned with this team. I think there's, if anything, I'm hopeful and I think I'm optimistic that there's a chance that this team can still come out of the East.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. When looking at this team, Chess, I mean, I've been very impressed with the O-line. I mean, just look what Stamack's doing. I mean, and he's finally catching balls out of the backfield too, because that was a huge problem at the beginning of the season. Because the Alouettes over their history have had great running backs who can catch the ball, and Cliff and I were just floored. We're like, why wasn't he able to catch the balls? But see, that seems to be correct. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the defense itself, something needs to be done. By the way, speaking of, were you surprised that the Owls made the change?
Which change?
At coach.
Coach Howard.
Yeah. Were you surprised?
I mean, I don't know the internet. I didn't know the reason or what's going on, so I didn't. I wasn't surprised or not surprised to be honest. I didn't. Who did they replace him with?
Greg Quick.
Yeah, Greg Quick.
Okay. I did see the announcement that Coach Quick. Something else, Coach Quick, but I didn't know what happened. Is there something behind that? You heard?
We don't know. That's the thing. We don't know, and I mean, for us, it just came out of nowhere. I mean,
well, it's likely you don't want to speculate, but you can speculate that it's probably a COVID thing. That's what most of the things we're seeing now.
Yeah.
have a lot to do with vaccinations and stuff. I'm not saying that's what it is.
No,
but there's a possibility that's what it is.
A la Toronto.
Yeah, there's a lot. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of teams that hear the same thing from.
Yeah.
League wide, what do you think? Do you think that teams are adapting as far as with all these COVID restrictions and protocols and all that? Do you think that it's impeding any one team in particular as far as how they go about their day-to-day operations?
You mean besides Edmonton, Cliff?
Besides Edmonton, yes, that's the obvious.
Yeah. well, look, you saw Toronto lost their defensive coaching staff. I mean, that was the situation. I mean, you had Glenn Young and Josh Bell, the defensive coordinator and defensive back coach, who both had to leave the team because of I think it was because they weren't vaccinated. Again, I'm not going to go on record and say that because I don't know if it's been said that's the reason. I think that's what's been heard, but yeah, I think that was a pretty big deal. I think you got to adjust. I mean, that's the world we're living in. These are the rules that I would say this. Everyone has their own right to do what they feel in their personal life. But when you're playing a professional sport that impacts other 100 guys and 75 guys on your team and 75 guys on another team, then you have to, at that point, it seems as though you have to, do what's best for the collective. And if this is what the medical professionals say is best for the collective, then, that's turned into what is a personal thing and an off the field thing, and it turned into a football thing. And so I think the teams that are going to adjust to it best and adapt to it best, that's going to help their football team in the long run. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, and what's funny you mentioned that too, is that while we're talking, Farhan Lalji tweets about that for some reason. Obviously the Elks and their issues that they're having. They're talking about GM Brock Sutherland and saying that how he is not vaccinated, but he's received a medical exemption. I think it's funny that this questioning, and so we saw yesterday with the NBA, media day and stuff like that, and the whole thing that we saw with the different players and how everybody answered. It's become the talking point, and while I understand it, it's around Davis. I mean, let's talk more about football. I understand it's around there, as you said. I agree with you. Everybody has their own choice, but let's just continue to play football, dude.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I'm all good with leaving the other stuff to the news people and to whoever else wants to talk about the medical people. I'm happy to talk football.
Exactly. One last thing before we get you, we want to talk to you about it, is looking at the league itself. The league this year has been so weird. Scoring seems to be way down. Obviously, the crowds have been affected because of different protocols per different province. We saw what happened last year. The NFL with COVID didn't have a preseason, and scoring, I think, was up. I don't remember what percentage it was up, but it was up, I think, drastically. Why didn't the CFL do the exact same thing, Ches? Was it what's the difference between what the NFL did last year and what the CFL is doing this year?
You mean in regards to why it's scoring down in the CFL, why was it up in the NFL?
Yeah, well, why scoring down, and why is play just the way that it is this year?
Well, for me, it's quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. The injury to quarterbacks is the one thing. I believe the kicker situation is another. There was an attempt to a few of the rosters, not all, a few of them, to try to fit global players as their kicker, or a ratio situation as a kicker, and I think that's affected it. Those are the two things that stand out to me. And then I will also say that, in the NFL, there were a lot more, the season that they just had last year, there was a lot more Zoom meetings and off-season programs that they went through before they started their season. Mm-hmm. So, yes, they were, there was COVID involved, but they also had a lot more resources and structure in regards to off-season programs and getting together that I think would have had the offenses, which when people are not together and it's training camp at the beginning of seasons, especially shortened seasons and shortened off-seasons with no usually games, defenses are usually ahead of offense. I think that would be the biggest thing, is that no preseason games and really no off-season mini camps or anything like that. So that should be expected.
Yeah. Cliff, take us home, man.
All right. Well, Davis, we always appreciate having you here on the flight deck. Love your takes. Love everything that you give to us. I guess as far as overall, I mean, it's as we talked about what's going on with the Alouettes, and we know the talent is here. We know that this is a very talented football team. What do you think? Can this team replicate what they did in 2019? Can they get it together? And what can you say to Alouettes fans that need just a little bit of hope in their team right now?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the flight deck, and for any Alouettes fans listening, I appreciate it. You know how much I always tell you, Cliffy, and we've spoken over the years, but I'm Montreal is my second home, and it was awesome to me. And my years there I'll always be an Aloe. People always say, "Well, you play for BC, you play for Calgary," and I'm an Alouette through and through, and so I don't try not to come across bias on the broadcast, because my job is to stay neutral. Definitely, my heart is always with the Owls and that organization, and that city was just so darn good to me that I got a lot of love and always hope for the best. And remember what I expect for the rest of the season. The pieces are there, and that's I mentioned earlier. The pieces are there. There's weapons. There's a quarterback. There's leadership, and of course I'm a fan of Barron. So I think that there's potential and. Why can't this team? I'll leave you with this. Why can't this team represent the East in the Grey Cup?
Nice. I'll take that.
Fair enough. Why not us? That's the exact attitude they've got to have, is why not us?
Once again, thanks to Davis for coming onto the pod. Great hearing from somebody who you got to think about it. Really has to stay neutral, no matter who no matter how many teams you've been with or what team you stay with the longest. How TSN usually gets the flack of being pro Toronto and stuff like that. But I mean, it's refreshing to see a broadcaster who talks about the entire league is able to be as focused, but yet still dedicated to the team.
Oh, without question. And we've had Davis on numerous times, and it's always a blast to be able to chat with him. And you see the love that he has for this game, and for everything that he does. And it's just such a treat to be able to talk to him whenever we have the chance. Hopefully, it won't be another. I think it's been a couple of years since we had him on. Hopefully, it won't be another couple of years until we have him on again. Mm-hmm. Once again, Davis, we can't thank you enough for joining us. And you're always welcome here anytime you want. We said it before, and we'll say it again. Anytime you want to come on here and shoot the breeze with us, you got a spot open for you.
Yeah. So we hinted at it earlier. There were some ramifications, and I think this really came out of nowhere, in my opinion, about the coaching change that the Alouettes did. And for those who didn't know about it, Cliff, go ahead and explain what, if they happen to miss it, explain what happened.
Well, defensive line coach Todd Howard is out and has been replaced by defensive assistant Greg Quick, who also was a coach with the Alouettes back in the day. He was a linebackers coach. I think he did work on the defensive line as well, and even at one point was defensive coordinator for the Montreal Alouettes. So Greg Quick knows this team up, down, inside, and out, so I have no doubt in my mind that things will be fine. It was a bit of a shock, though, because Todd Howard has been coached now since 2018. As far as I'm concerned, whatever problems this team has, it's not necessarily the defensive line that's necessarily the problem. I mean, they started out super hot. Things have kind of cooled down a little bit, but you're still seeing production out of guys like Woody Barron and Almondo Sewell. I still think this is a very well put together unit. I thought it was well coached as well. I mean, we haven't really seen too many penalties from the defensive line. But for whatever reason, Kahari Jones decides he wants to make a coaching change. I don't know if it's to send a message to anyone or if it's to what the specifics behind it was. But now Todd Howard's out and Greg Quick is in. And also, too, the Alouettes also filled Greg Quick's defensive assistant spot with Director of National Scouting for the Alouettes, Brian Archambault. Again, another move
that was of U.S. Scouting.
No, he's Director of National Scouting.
Okay. I read it wrong then. Okay.
Yeah, but kind of interesting that a guy who was pretty much in the front office, again, a former player, is now expected to handle some defensive coaching duties. So I'm really puzzled as to why it's like that. But listen, like I said, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But I still believe in Kahari. If this is the move they felt that they had to make, then so be it. I mean, if it also helps kind of lighten the load a little bit for Baron Miles as defensive coordinator, having an experienced coach like Greg Quick helping out, then I'm all for that as well. I mean, the timing of the move is a little suspect. There's no question with being 2-4. If there's a problem, you're best to figure it out now and nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
I'm all for that. It just seems bizarre because, like I said, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of question marks about this team. There's a lot of weak points, if you will. Like, there's a lot of reasons why you would have to make a change. I just didn't think the defensive line was necessarily the reason why. Like, there's nothing I could look to necessarily and say, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that's why you have to make that change. So I don't know if it was about sending a message. I don't know if it was about just shaking things up. Who knows? I mean, like, the only people who really truly answer that question are Kahari Jones and Danny Machocha. And I don't know if this will make an immediate impact. I guess we'll find out on Saturday when the Alouettes play the Tiger Cats. But it definitely was a bit of a surprise, considering it came Sunday evening as well. Just kind of
kidding. Kind
of floated it out there. Like, oh, by the way, coaching change. Like, wow. Wait, what? Okay. I mean, it is what it is. That's football for you folks. It's just, it's never boring.
No, No, it is not. Yeah, I'm trying to look real quickly to see what the it's not like, the Owls, I think, are close. They are, when it comes to league stats, they're not doing that badly. I guess it's at a point where they, I don't know.
Well, it's kind of like that joke. You can use stats to prove anything. 64% people know that. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, stats are nice. Stats are cool, but it's not wins and losses. And that's really what it comes down to is, for whatever reason, yes, the Alouettes, this proves what I've been saying all along. The Alouettes have a very talented team. They can definitely put points on the board. They can definitely make incredible plays happen. The stats, in that sense, the numbers don't lie. But the numbers that are most important, it comes back to wins and losses. Mm-hmm. The Alouettes have 2 wins, 0 losses. The Alouettes have not beaten their 2 wins were against bad teams. That's really what it comes down to. So it looks impressive, the stats, but who have you beaten and who have you played? And this is the thing that concerns me going forward is that, okay, fine, we played the Red Blacks 3 more times. And before this past Tuesday, I would have said, okay, those are guaranteed wins because right now, or it felt like the Red Blacks are just, in a shambles, but they managed to pull themselves together. Of course, they had to beat the Elks to do it. Like I said, the other team that the Alouettes were able to beat. So, I mean, like, these losses, or the wins, I should say, are just not indicative of what this team can do, I don't think. What's going to happen later on down the road when you're playing Saskatchewan and you're playing Winnipeg twice this year? Those are not guaranteed wins by any stretch. But this team's going to have to find a way to win, and not just against divisional opponents. Divisional wins are definitely important, and the Alouettes still have quite a few divisional games to go. But I mean, you got to find ways to win and not lose by a few points.
No. And some of the things seem to be okay for the Alouettes. I'm looking at some of the defense. I know it's the stats are stats, but especially coming up with this week's game, Hamilton is 47 2-and-outs. Okay. Mm. But they're tops in the league by forcing 44. Mm. Montreal's last in the league at 29 at forcing 2-and-outs. So,
no, and that's one thing is that one thing Montreal is able to do more often than not is extend plays. Like, they can extend drives. It's just they don't finish. That's the problem. Or instead of getting touchdowns, they'll get field goals, which is great for David Cote to help pad his stats. But once again, you can't win on field goals alone either.
No, you can't. Wow, I did not know that BC has their opponent's net offense. Okay, never mind. Yeah, the Owls are just allowing way too many yards.
Well, that's it. They're racking up the yards, but they're also allowing yards. And like I said, there's so many issues that need to be addressed, and so many reasons why they lost against Toronto. So many reasons why they lost against Hamilton, BC, Calgary. I mean, it's maddening because a couple of those games, like a couple of things bounced the right way. This team could even be 5-1, if you can believe that. It's just a matter of got to close. Simple as that. You got to be closing. And the Alouettes have done a terrible job of closing, unless you're playing the Elks or the Red Blacks. And that's got to change. Simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, the plus, I guess, for the Alouettes, I mean, all the pluses seem to be on offense there. I mean, the Alouettes, which I remember I was talking about this a few years ago. Currently, Cliff, the team leads the league in second down conversion rate at 55.2%. That's crazy.
That's literally half of your...
Yes.
Half of your drives are going to be extended.
Yes.
But what do you have to show for it? This is really what it comes down to.
And they're leading the league in net offense at over 400 yards a game.
I mean, again, you look at Vernon, nearly 400 yards passing against Toronto. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Mm-hmm. But what do you think people give a rat's ass about that? No. They're going to say,
it's wins and losses, dude.
Wins and losses. Look at the picks he threw. He can't make a good decision. He can't make his reads. Blah 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 blah. Like that's what people focus on. I'm sorry. Like you're only as good as what your record says you are, and you're only as good as the last play you made. And what was the last play that Vernon made against Toronto? Took too long with the snap, threw the ball to Gino, tried to get out of bounds to at least have at least a second left on the clock to do something with.
I swear that clock started early.
It could have been.
I swear that clock started early. I'm glad you mentioned it because it went from 5 to 3. I'm like, wait a minute, where's 4?
But isn't it funny how both that game and the Calgary game ended with Gino trying to do something, Do
you think they would have tried to go for the field goal?
Of course.
Why not?
And I mean, again, I think it would have had to be at least a 55-yard field goal. I mean, Cote's best so far this season is 54. So
Cote's done well.
Either 52 or 54, but I mean, like, kid's got a leg.
Yeah.
I mean. And I think that's really what it came down to is if at least had that 1 second on the clock to at least try it. I mean, if he missed, he missed. I mean, at that point, it really didn't matter. But it just makes things so frustrating because it's all the stats you rattled off. This team has talent. This is a very talented team, but they're not living up to that talent. They're not reaching that potential. And as I said, you can't do this whole cardiac kids nonsense every single time and expect to win.
No,
it didn't work against Calgary this year. It didn't work against Toronto. It really comes down to you got to play better.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure you ask anyone on this team, they'll say the exact same thing. We got to be better. And Vernon has said it. I don't know how many times. I've got to be better.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to, and he's right. He has to be better. I know he can be better, but saying it and doing it are two completely different things. And I think the faster that people realize that, and the faster that this team realizes it and realizes they can't just say it, they have to do it, I think we're going to see a much different football team.
Fingers crossed. Positive note, as I mentioned earlier in the show, William Stamack was named one of the players of the week.
As well he should.
Yep.
I mean,
it marked his 4th game of more than 100 yards rushing this season. It's a personal best, and he also collected an 800-yard plus game in his CFL career. In 6 games this season, Stamack sits atop the CFL with 618 rushing yards, which currently is 119 more yards than the next competitor, and he averages 103 yards per game.
I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean, that
shows that the O-line is doing an amazing job for him, which has been a joy to watch.
Oh, without question. I mean, and for years, this O-line was always a work in progress. But I think the pieces they have in place they're doing the job, and it's outstanding to watch. Mm-hmm. I'm extremely impressed, and the fact that they are able to create the lanes to let Stamack do his thing is like. I mean, first of all, the guy's hard to take down, and you can't stop him on that first tackle. But still, you still need your offensive line to create the opportunities for someone like that. And they've been doing it every single game. So you definitely have to take your hat off to that. I mean, say what you will about the quarterback, but this backfield is definitely doing the job. I mean, Stamack is definitely playing like the superstar we expect him to be.
Yep, exactly.
And he's catching balls now, too. So that's an added bonus.
Yes.
Whatever yips he had to start off the season, they're gone. He's a pass-catching machine now.
So... The game, 4 p.m. on Saturday versus the East leading Hamilton Tiger Cats. Are they leading?
Tied for first with Toronto now because of the win.
Oh, that's right. Owls have split their last 6 in Hamilton. I got to say in Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
The game... on all the normal places, but just one note, as I mentioned on social media this week. Due to a scheduling conflict with, I guess, the Habs and their preseason game, the game will be only streamed. The broadcast will only be streamed on TSN 690. Is it .ca or .com?
I don't know. I usually just listen. If I'm going to listen, I'll listen via the app or actually in my car if I'm listening on the radio. So,
yeah. so TSN.ca. Go to TSN.ca, and I think you can find it there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something. This is a first for English radio, as far as I know. You know, first time that it's only streamed. I know the Impact, CF Montreal have had that a couple times this year already, where they've been streamed online. But as far as I can remember, as long as the Alouettes have had a contract with a provider or a broadcaster, this is the first. As far as I know, this is the first time that I could think of. No, there was one. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong. For streaming, yes, and only stream, yes. But yeah, anyways.
I mean,
but again, you'll have to, if you want to listen to Sean Campbell and Marco Olivier Brouet, you got to listen online, because the game, it won't be on Sirius. It won't be, because they're going to carry the Hamilton feed, etc. So, anyways, but the game itself, man, I didn't even check what the line is. I think
Hamilton's favored by 2.5.
Thank you. Well, they're getting the home 3 points, which is, as far as I know, which is what it usually is, anyways.
Yeah, and the CFL.ca writers or quote unquote experts have made their picks, and 2 of the 6 have gone with Montreal. Everybody else believes that Hamilton will probably steamroll over the Alouettes, and I can't say I blame them, considering what's been happening lately. So, but the beautiful thing about the CFL is anything can happen. I mean, everybody expected the Elks to run a roughshod over 2 quarterbacks who have never had any CFL experience, and look what happened there.
Yeah, Montreal and Calgary.
Yeah, there's that as well. Jake Mayer certainly made everybody sit up and take notice. Listen, that's a beautiful thing about this game is anything can happen. Like, you just when you think it's going to be what was it, the late great Roddy Piper once said, just when you think you have all the answers, I go ahead and change all the questions. And that's what CFL teams seem to do every week. We expect a certain thing, and boom, something else goes completely the opposite direction, and people just don't know how to react. It's what makes this league so unpredictable, so exciting at times. But to me, I think, if we start looking at what the Alouettes have to do to win this game in Hamilton, I mean, you just rattled off all those stats. This team knows how to score.
Yeah.
This team knows how to execute. It just has to execute. Defense, though, I think definitely has to really step up. I mean, like I said, the secondary was just it was a dog's breakfast against the Argos. That's got to improve. And I sincerely hope that they saw the mistakes they made and are going to improve on that. This front 7, I think, is still very competitive. I still think can definitely make a lot of noise. And now with Greg Quick kind of running the show for the defensive line, I'm curious to see how well they'll react to him almost immediately. Like I said, his coaching resume speaks for itself. Yeah, I mean, he knows the system. He knows this organization up and down. As I said, I don't think there'll be any problems. Like, if anything, I think things will just get better as far as this defensive line goes. Because if they had to get rid of Todd Howard, it was because something wasn't working. So if that's what it takes to get them back into it and gets them back to being the team that we expect them to be, then it was the right move to make. Simple as that. But Hamilton is a team that, again, has all the potential to be an explosive powerhouse. And you know they're going to be ready. Like they were rested. They were on the bye, coming off, and now they want to prove that they are who they say they are too. Like let's look at they're leading or they're tied for first in the Eastern Division, and they want to expand upon that. And again, everybody's counting the Alouettes out, and that's fine. I think the Alouettes are kind of hoping for that too. I think they would too want to catch everybody napping and see and show the world what they can do. At least I hope so, because as I said, all this talk of have to be better and have to, knowing what you need to do, that's all it is. It's just talk. You got to go out and do it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Like you got to plan your work and work your plan.
Yeah.
I think that's what's key right now for Montreal, is that they have to show that they are who they say they are. Because otherwise, we're just going to see more efforts like this. And as I said, this whole cardiac kids thing, this gutsy comeback stuff, it makes things exciting. But is it worth, anything if you don't get that win?
Yeah.
Now, and that's really what it comes down to, is you've got to get the win. Now, by any means necessary.
There's one thing that we touched on just a touch, but this is a big thing that we need to really watch for the game. Vernon Adams went through the second half last week with hurt ribs. I'm surprised at how well he did, by the way. I mean, some of the throws he made, it's as if his ribs were not bothering him one bit.
Well, they taped him up pretty good, or at least, I don't know if it was a compression shirt that he had on.
Yeah, I saw the compression shirt. Yeah, I saw them put it on, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that probably helped too, but, I mean, he was favoring his side. And don't think that guys like Simone Lawrence and Ted Laurent aren't going to take advantage of something like that. Like, I definitely see a lot of bull rushes to try and get to him and try to make him do that Houdini magic of his to escape. And that's going to put a lot of wear and tear on the ribs as well. Like the way that Vernon plays, that mobile style that he plays, trying to escape, that's going to take its toll on the ribs as well. So, I mean, if he's not 100%, and if he's not, I don't know if he's going to have to get like a flak jacket or something underneath his uniform to help keep his ribs, protected. I mean, that could be a big factor as well. And for whatever reason, because he was able to make that a great throw to Jake Wienecke to get another touchdown, I am really surprised that they didn't get Matt Schiltz into the game. Like, he was warming up, but he never actually did go in against Toronto.
I noticed that too. And
I mean, I think if Vernon wasn't going to be 100%, then definitely Schiltz would have to get some looks as well. I mean,
true, but we saw it's funny. We saw how well Vernon did do. I mean, that's the funny thing about it.
I mean,
I did not, some of the passes that he at first, with all honesty, I thought it was a collarbone, because the way that he was holding it, I'm thinking, oh crap. But then after it kept on changing, I was like, okay, it's got to be ribs.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know where it was. They never really pointed it out where it might have happened.
Yeah, because it's not like he fell on the ball or someone fell on him awkwardly or anything like that. I mean, it may have happened and it just wasn't caught on camera. But it was very bizarre as to how all of a sudden his ribs he was favoring his ribs.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's funny though, like just the couple of strikes that he made to Wienecke, it's hard to believe that his ribs were bothering him making those throws, but
right. And I think a few were saying that his interception in the fourth quarter was caused by the ribs. No, it wasn't.
No,
it wasn't.
No, it was just a bad throw.
Yeah,
it was a
throw that should have gone out of bounds, or have him run, which I think he had a chance to do.
Well, I mean, that's it. He got out of the pocket and he was trying to, again, do what he does. He's trying to extend the play, trying to make the big play happen. But again, just a split second, of poor judgment, and turns into an INT. Simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, it was a little more that one was a little more forgivable than his first INT, which, like I said, I swear he was aiming right for the Argo defender.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to get much. That's probably the easiest interception you're going to get in your life, a throw like that. It was just like, that was the one where you're sitting there like, what were you thinking on that one? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, like I said, as Vernon watched the tape, I'm sure even himself was like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, I know.
But, I mean, like I said, that's football. It's split-second decision-making. And sometimes when you zig, you should zag. And I think that's really what it came down to with at least that play. Like I said, the second interception, just, like I said, trying to do too much. Simple as that.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens. Should be an interesting game. Obviously, we'd rather be 3-4 than 2-5. So, especially going into the Thanksgiving Day game versus Ottawa.
Right. And Ottawa now too, they've got to be really feeling themselves right now, because right now they are 2-5. So if Montreal, if they end up 2-5, and you got these two teams playing each other, and don't forget too, they'll be playing each other twice in the same week.
Yeah.
I mean, like these are important games, and they're not the gimmies that we think they're going to be now.
Ottawa has it tough though coming up, dude. You know, look at their schedule. They're technically playing 2 games next week.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. So we'll see. As I said, the first Ottawa's first Week 10 game. That sounds so weird. will probably show us a lot.
Well, that's it. Like they've got momentum right now. They've got, like I said, they got that good feeling. They got that first win in over 2 years at home. Mm-hmm. Like they shocked the world essentially. So I mean, now they got to be able to back that up. They got to be able to go out and do it again. And I'm sure they would love nothing more than to be able to do it against Montreal. Even though there's not really that huge Montreal-Ottawa rivalry that the league would love for it to be, I still think there's a big part of that would love to be able to, catch the Alouettes snapping and just, ruin their party. Because don't forget, Montreal has still not won at home this season.
I know.
I mean, road wins are great. Don't get me wrong, but the fans at home would like to see a W as well.
I agree.
And you can't just look at the schedule and say, "Oh, Red Blacks, that's easy. That's automatic." No, it's not. Even though yes, the Alouettes did pace them 51-29 in Ottawa. That was then. This is now.
Yeah.
And I mean, you cannot take this Red Blacks team lightly by any stretch.
No, but that's next week. Not looking through Hamilton. Stay apprised and stay tuned to us on our social media accounts during the game. I'm sure we'll have a lot to say, and also make sure that you keep listening to our iLilies, also our quick audio hits on our Twitter accounts. Also, greatly appreciated, because again, we just try to get you guys as much information as possible as we can. So
that's it. It's a great way to get, as you said, they're just little snippets of information out. I mean, it's and you're seeing lots more TSN and other CFL personalities starting to use this platform to just get little news and notes out, just quick thoughts. And that's the beauty of it, is just you don't need to listen to a whole long-winded spiel about this, that, and the other. It's like, oh, if you got something to say, you say it, quick, concise, simple, boom, it's out there.
Exactly. So we appreciate everybody. If you have anything you want to say to us, just send us something over on social media. We'll be greatly. It'll be our pleasure to talk with you guys. So,
yeah, absolutely. As I always say, if you like the show, tell a friend.
Yeah.
If you don't like the show, tell us.
Yeah.
Because this show is here for you, folks. We want to make this the best possible show for you. But if you don't tell us we're doing something wrong, we can't fix it. So, reach out to us. Lord knows there's plenty of ways on social media to be able to interact with both Tim and myself. Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong. If we're doing things right, then by all means, keep showing us the love, the likes, the subscribes, everything like that. We definitely appreciate each and every one of you who's doing that. And again, this really, truly is your show, and we want you to be a part of it.
Yep, exactly. So we'll talk to you guys next week, hopefully with some positive news on the Alouettes game.
Here's hoping.
Here's hoping. So everybody here at Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.